Good day, my name is Angelo. This is Nation's Voice Tower, that hub that keeps you updated on the political system in Nigeria and how it affects the masses. Thanks for joining us. Now, it's no longer news that a new EFCC boss has been announced. Yes, there has been a new appointment by Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has appointed Ola Olukayode as the new chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Alright, that's cool. That's okay. Now remember that I told you earlier, I brought you an update earlier about the fact that there are people whose criminal records will soon be deleted or erased from the records of the EFCC, and that is dependent on who the EFCC chairman is, and it is going to be one of the criteria for giving him the job as the EFCC chairman. He must wipe away all the criminal records of the people I mentioned in that update. If you can remember, there were people like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there were people like Kashim Shettima, there were people like Babatunde Fashola and all that. Okay, these people allegedly have criminal records with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and I told you that anybody who will be the EFCC boss, this will be one of the bases on which he's going to be appointed. So just keep watch, because very soon you're going to know, or you're going to listen or hear that the records of many people that I mentioned in that update that day will be deleted, and there will be no criminal records against them with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Now to the matter at hand. Yes. Right, now let's talk about how it is, okay? He has been appointed, and I feel it's unlawful. I feel President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has double-crossed Nigerians. He has gone over to a part of the country where actually Nigerians wouldn't actually play with. All right, what am I trying to say? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had to, go against lots of laws to appoint this man, Ola Olukayode. Now, let's be straightforward. Where will you go out of your way? Where will you obey? Where will you fulfill lots of obligations and not fulfill lots of constitutional obligations to appoint this man, Ola Olukayode, as EFCC chairman? Now, the appointment of Ola Olukayode as EFCC boss, by Bola Ahmed Tinubu is unlawful and illegal. How? It actually goes contrary to Section 2 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act. Yes, Section 2 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Act, which actually requires, it states in that section, it requires, and it's the requirement of whoever must be the EFCC chairman. All right, and according to the Section 2 of the EFCC Act, it says that whoever must be EFCC chairman must, among other things, have the following. Now, before I give the requirements of whoever must be the EFCC chairman must have, I want to remind you that, did you know that Ola Olukayode is a pastor with the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, specifically in a parish called City of Refuge in Lagos Province, or in Lagos State, in Shasha in Lagos? Did you know? Now, secondly, do you know that before he became the EFCC boss, sometime in his legal career, of course he's a lawyer, sometime in his legal career he served under the chambers of Yemi Osibajo, the former vice president of during the President Muhammadu Buhari era? Did you know? Finally, the EFCC boss was once suspended together with Ibrahim Magu when he was a secretary to Ibrahim Magu in the commission, and he was never recalled by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2020. Why was he recalled now? He was suspended together with Ibrahim Magu when he was a secretary without being called upon. That was the same kind of suspension that Abdul Rashid Bawa is going to, or has already undergone. You know, news said that he has finally officially resigned. That is why Ola Olukayode was brought on board. Now let us see those requirements that were actually stated by Section 2 of the EFCC Act. And let's see those requirements too that the appointment of Ola Olukayode fell short of. I told you that Section 2 of the EFCC Act says that the EFCC chairman must, among other things, have, number one, he must have been a serving or retired member of any security or law enforcement agencies. I want to establish the reason why I told you the appointment of Ola Olukayode is very, very unlawful and unconstitutional. Alright, listen. The person who must be an EFCC chairman must be a serving or retired member of any security or law enforcement agency. Number two, he must have 15 years cognate experience of law enforcement, and he must not be below the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police. Olukayode is a private legal practitioner, and he has never worked or belonged to any security or law enforcement agency as a member. He does not have 15 years cognate experience as a law enforcement officer, and his private legal practice years cannot be equated to the rank in law enforcement. Not enough attending seminal courses as a private legal practitioner can equate 15 years cognate experience contemplated by Section 2 of the EFCC Act. Ola Olukayode only has a stint, or he had a stint, as Chief of Staff of Ibrahim Magu and later became a secretary of the commission, all of which lasted for less than 6 years in his career. Alright, that means he has failed to fulfill the requirements of Section 2 of the EFCC Act, which stipulates or states the requirements that must be fulfilled by anybody that must be named EFCC chairman. Alright, so what am I trying to say? That means somehow Bola Ahmed Tinubu went out of his way to appoint this man as EFCC chairman, because he feels that, number one, this man must be the only competent person that would be very, very loyal to him and his cohorts. Two, he also feels that this man, who has not been a member of the commission for a long while, it only means one thing: he was given to him based on recommendation from either Osibajo or his wife, Remi Tinubu, because he attends the RCCG church. Of course, we know that these two people are pastors with the RCCG. So if he was not appointed, or if he was not a nominee from Yemi Osibajo, who I told you earlier, in one of my updates, that Yemi Osibajo will have been the person he chose, you know, as his vice, all right, or let me say, during the time he wanted to emerge as president, sometime in 2011, when the APC warned him about his records, his criminal records. Yemi Osibajo and Remi Tinubu were amongst the people he was asked to choose to replace himself as VP to President Muhammadu Buhari, of which he chose Yemi Osibajo at that time. All right. So Yemi Osibajo has been a very close pally, or a close close crony of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and I think that is why he is under suspicion of the person who nominated Ola Olukayode as EFCC chairman. It can also be his wife, Remi Tinubu. Yes, it can also be his wife. Now, that is that on that particular update. We hope, and I will tell you what, keep your fingers crossed. You will notice that finally this new man, Ola Olukayode, would work in the EFCC, work in the sense that he's going to delete all the criminal records of those people I mentioned in that update. Now, secondly, there has been controversies over the fact that Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate for the People's Democratic Party, allegedly had two names while growing up sometime 50 years ago. all right, preferably in 1973. Okay, so this controversy came up during the period when the Chicago State University saga was at its peak. People were doubting the fact that from his records, the name on his West African Examination Council result (WAEC) said that or depicted that he was answering Sadiq as at 1973, instead of Atiku Abubakar as he was supposed to answer, or as he answers now. All right. So controversies erupted because people who support Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his close allies dug out this WAEC result of Atiku Abubakar and have been, calling him out to answer the reason why his name on his WAEC result is actually Sadiq instead of the Atiku he answers today. All right. Talking about this, Frank Shaibu, a media aide to Atiku Abubakar, has come up to explain the reasons, including revealing that Atiku Abubakar deposed an affidavit in August 1973, returning and authenticating the name Atiku over Sadiq, unlike Bola Ahmed Tinubu's case where there was no actual change of name. Rather, there were discrepancies in sex, discrepancies in gender, and discrepancies also in lots of first name and surname, discrepancies in date of birth, discrepancies in different sort of diploma certificate issued over time. So listen to Frank Shaibu while he throws more light on the reasons why Atiku Abubakar answered Sadiq in 1973 and now is known as Atiku Abubakar.
No. The change of name was not even 50 years ago. Okay. It's the affidavit he deposed to. That was 50 years ago, particularly in August 1973. That's 50 years ago.
Right.
You understand? He deposed an affidavit returning his name to Atiku Abubakar.
Why was it necessary?
I'll tell you something.
Right.
One is a man who believes in proper documentation. In the first place, for anyone who believes or who understands Islamic civilization vis-a-vis what we call in terms of names, the etymology of Islamic names, that is the origin of Islamic names, will tell you clearly that the Holy Prophet, Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, gave the two names, Siddiq and Atiku, to one of his bosom friends, who was Caliph Abu Bakr at that time. Now, if a young Atiku, young Atiku elected to bear the name Siddiq, as well, and later changed to Atiku, these two names have what we call a historical Islamic background. You understand? So it is of no consequence. The beautiful thing here is that he did not change from Samira, who is a female, to Atiku Abubakar, like we have in Mr. Bola Tinubu's sex and name scandal, particularly which originated from the Chicago Gate. That those were documents he said will cause him irreparable damage if they were released to us. And when those documents were released, you recall vividly that you saw the sex there was that of a female, particularly the records that were brought in from the Southwest College to Chicago State University. Now, Atiku's names, Siddiq and Atiku, are two names that have what we call, if you trace the etymology, it will take you to what we call Islamic civilization.
Yeah, but he hasn't answered why he needed to change from Siddiq to Atiku.
No, there's nothing there. It's understanding.
He just chose to change.
A man can choose to be what he wants to be.
Do other documents? Hold on. Yes. Do other documents of Atiku Abubakar?
Yes.
Have the name Siddiq? Or he has discarded that totally?
Yes, he discarded it the moment he deposed an affidavit. When you depose an affidavit, you say all other documents remain valid. And when he submitted these are documents before every organization this man has worked with, including the Nigerian Customs as well as INEC. We have nothing to hide.
All right, you've watched it there. Frank Shaibu, he explained it directly. Of course, I think it's clear to everyone. All right, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu had come out this way to explain like this, I think we wouldn't be where we are today. So we challenge Bola Tinubu or his spokespeople to come out and give vivid explanations and backings like this to any of his principles. Or Bola Tinubu himself can also come out to defend himself. That was what Peter Obi asked him to do during the World Press Conference yesterday. So you should please come up and do the needful, please. All right. Now, finally, there was a policy that was enacted by the APC during the time of President Muhammadu Buhari in 2018. It was called the Modular Refinery Policy. All right. It was implemented somewhere in the south, or to help all states in the south, and their refineries to be able to operate with a particular license, and all that. Okay. But it has been seen over time that this modular refinery policy has actually failed over time, and the aims and objectives why the modular refinery policy was enacted were not met, hence saying that the APC failed Nigerians in that aspect. No wonder we have been fighting to regulate petroleum pump price, or petroleum price generally, and we haven't gotten anywhere, despite the fact that we are an oil producing country. Okay, so throwing more light on this, I have Theophilus Tari Alaye, who is also an environmental safety and pollution expert. He has come on air to explain the reasons why he feels the modular refinery policy implemented in 2018 by the APC was a sham and failed. And it was a failed policy. All right, please stay tuned for Theophilus Tari Alaye.
Thank you very much. The modular refineries basically was not just to produce or increase production of petroleum products in Nigeria, but also to see how employment, engagement of youth in the Niger Delta can also be considered. As a result of the youth restiveness, unemployment that have faced our people over time. But when these modular refinery licenses were given, the stakeholders from the Niger Delta region were not put into consideration. Secondly, those licenses that were given out for the companies to operate were not of the interest of the people of the Niger Delta. So I will tell you categorically that with what is on ground, no modular refinery is operational. Even at least it's about 2 that is 99 or 90% completed, but they are not also operational. So I can categorically tell you that the APC policy of the modular refinery that was implemented 2018 has completely failed, and they never got the goal of which those licenses were given. And that is why we keep on always telling the federal government and the IOCs and the agencies in charge that anytime they want to carry out policies or programs or issues like modular refinery that has to do with the people of the Niger Delta, the critical stakeholders, the players, the Niger Delta sons and daughters that are in the oil and gas sector should always be put into consideration. Like now what is happening in Bayelsa State, our renowned and most famous son, Ezekiel, is building a private refinery in Bayelsa State. But you know how capital intensive that is. But hadn't been those modular refinery licenses were given to people like Ezekiel at that time, or the likes of Kenny Tete, or Engineer Joseph Pinawo of First Marine Investment, at least some of these projects would have come to play. And that is why we make it very, very clear as a council, as a people, that whatever policies, whatever program that has to do with the people of the Niger Delta, the stakeholders should always be put into consideration, and they should not play politics with the development of the Niger Delta region. So I will categorically tell you that the modular refinery, the aim, the goals have not been achieved, and that is why you see that the illegal refinery, as we speak today, is still booming very high as a result of unemployment. Not because people just want to bastardize their environment or tamper with the economic activities of the region.
All right, you've heard it there from Theophilus Tari Alaye. That means with this statement, the modular refinery policy really failed. Yes, there were better ways to do this. Okay, you can't actually work in a particular region without inculcating or bringing in people from that region. It is very, very sad and very, very unpolitical or undemocratic of any government to come to a particular community, to feast on their resources or their natural endowments without bringing in any of the representatives or any of the stakeholders of such communities or such regions into the governing body that actually are at the helm of affairs of such a mineral resource in such a community. All right, that was a mistake that the APC made, which actually contributed immensely to the failure of the modular refinery policy. Finally, you've really heard it that the EFCC chairman has been appointed, and please keep a watch so you will confirm this particular update I've given you. He is going to delete the records of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his other cohorts and cronies whose names were mentioned in my other updates. Please, if you have been following up, you'll go back to that update and check. And then he has failed to his appointment as EFCC chairman, talking about Ola Olukayode, has failed to fulfill all the constitutional requirements, especially those present in the EFCC Act, going against the Section 2 of the EFCC Act. And that is how, or that is the reason why we have been bringing these updates to you, so that you will understand that there are lots of unconstitutional appointments that Bola Tinubu has undertaken that are not actually supposed to be done by a president. From my table, I want to call it quits, but before I say so, I would love to urge you, please like our videos, share them. Don't forget to drop a comment for us in the comment section. And if you're watching me for the first time, tap the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that we'll get to link up when I drop a new update. From my table, I'm saying, see you next time. Bye.